Okay, now that we've gone into the details of said case, we've talked with Brad a little bit about the actual legal mechanisms, both federal and state, the way that this could all go down. Let's get to the politics, of which we alluded to a little bit in our previous A block. Let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen. A major fight is now currently brewing on if New York State prosecutors do issue an indictment towards Trump is what will Ron DeSantis do? Will he honor the extradition request of the state of New York? Will Trump willingly turn himself over in New York City? And will DeSantis come forward and denounce the political prosecution of Donald Trump? So here's what we have here. Send the Florida National Guard to Mar-a-Lago. MAGA is demanding that DeSantis defy any Trump arrest by force. You have Jason Miller asking why potential presidential candidate Ron DeSantis has yet to weigh in on the claim on Truth Social that he's being arrested. But many more are saying, what exactly is he going to do? He says here, MAGA figure Mike Cernovich, who's really come out and he's actually been more of a pro-DeSantis type person, but says, quote, that DeSantis needs to come out and say, I will not extradite a presidential candidate to a Soros DA who allows violent criminals to roam free until there has been a proper legal review conducted under Florida law. If lawful, then extradition may occur, but not 1 day sooner. And yet, he really hasn't come out and said anything. It spawned a tremendous push, Krystal, by MAGA forces, both online and probably privately as well. This is confirming some reporting from inside the Trump apparatus that politically they see this as a massive gift to them. And what have you and I said from day one? You're like, an indictment only helps him in any primary. I'm not talking about the general. At this point, I will not even try to speculate on where exactly that will get to. Purely within the Republican base, the persecution, however you may think is justified or not, the prosecution of former president is going to lead to a rallying of exactly like we saw after the Mar-a-Lago raid. And the fact that DeSantis has already waited so long to say anything, I actually think makes him look weak. So at this point, he needs to keep his mouth shut forever, because if he comes out now and does try and condemn it in some mealy-mouthed way, the way he has previously in the past, I think he will look even weaker. Yeah. He's made his choice. You made your choice now, Ron. Meatball, now you got to stick to it. Yeah.
Pudding Ron is the new moniker based on the report that he eats pudding with his fingers. This is quite a pickle that he's in, because not only, I mean, even if he wasn't the governor of the state that technically has to extradite Trump for this indictment, just being a presidential contender, like they're all under a lot of pressure to say something or not say something or whatever. A couple of them have come out really forcefully. Others of them are just keeping quiet, Nikki Haley among them. So even if it was just that landscape, it would be difficult, but it is, I mean, I can't help but laugh at what a bind he's in, because he actually has to be involved in the mechanics of extraditing Trump from his state. So even if he says nothing, like, they're not going to forgive him for being involved in this. And in their words, you know, collaborating with this radical leftist, George Soros funded, whatever. So yeah, this is a tough one for him. This is a real pickle for him in terms of how he handles it.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, politically, I think it's a nightmare for Ron DeSantis. But you know, as you said, even if he wasn't the governor who had to decide on whether to honor the extradition request or not, he still is in the same political bind of, do I condemn or do I not condemn? And when you don't, of course, you are going to follow yourself in the crosshairs. Already, one of the candidates, Vivek Ramaswamy, is calling out Ron DeSantis for not saying anything. In addition to Nikki Haley, he made a video that he put out on Twitter, which is now being praised by the Trump campaign, to be clear. Let's take a listen to some of what he said.
Today's announcement I worry about for the same reason that I differentiate myself from Trump, is that I think this takes us a step closer to a national divorce. I think that when you politicize the justice system itself to prosecute a political opponent of the party in power, the lead political opponent of the party in power, that is not one small step, but a giant leap towards a national divorce if they follow through it too. And so it's in some ways the same reason that I'm drawn into this race as a candidate running against Trump, that also draws me to be a hardliner against the possibility that Trump be indicted on ministerial and politicized grounds.
There you go. I don't really know why he's speaking into his phone. I'm presuming microphone. It's a little odd. But on the substance itself, calling out DeSantis on this is very smart politically. B, let's presume at the fact that, yes, technically Ramaswamy is running against Trump, but I think he's currently at 1% of the polls. If you're angling for some sort of cabinet position or for some sort of inroads, you could guarantee you that Donald Trump has seen that video and has been showing it to all of his friends, being like, look, this guy's running against me and even he's defending me.
Yeah.
It's like, it's one of those where currying favor with the former president, the current candidate, bringing praise from the Trump campaign, drawing a contrast with Nikki Haley and with DeSantis. DeSantis himself, I mean, the fact that he has stayed silent now, he came out immediately after the Mar-a-Lago raid and said something. So did Glenn Youngkin. So did so many of these others. That Haley and that DeSantis here are not weighing in and are not condemning, it just shows you too how out of, because look, with the Republican base itself, even the ones who want to move on from Trump, they still think about him fondly. They still like Trump. They're just like, okay, I like the guy, but maybe not, that we need some new blood. The fact is like you have got to be on the side, and this is a tricky part, where you can't really run against that person. You kind of have to run beyond that person. But in a zero-sum situation like this, what do? He's made his choice now at this point. I really do believe that.
Yeah.
It's been 2 days since it's come out, hasn't said anything. I'm sorry. Like, at this point, if you do come out and try and condemn it, I just think he's going to look weaker.
I mean, for Vivek, this makes all the sense in the world because it's unlikely that he'll be the Republican nominee, but this, it's good brand building for him, potentially angling for a cabinet position, et cetera. But his video also shows how there are no good answers for Republican contenders against Trump in terms of this indictment or any of the other ones, because if you say nothing, you're going to get hit. And certainly if you're the governor who's charged with extraditing him, that's a very difficult position to be in. So, not defending him, you're going to take a hit. But if you come out and you defend him and you basically bend the knee, you're also giving him power.
Yes.
So it's like either way, you lose and he's strengthened. So it's not like there are any good choices on the board game for any of these candidates to make. I think Ramaswamy there makes the best one in terms of how he is situated. Is that going to help him win a Republican primary? No. I mean, none of this is helpful for the other candidates in the field in terms of winning a Republican primary, which is something that we've been saying all along because we saw it all play out with the Mar-a-Lago raid, where they were effectively forced to bend the knee, defer to him, adopt his narrative. And then the whole political scene and the whole Republican primary scene, once again, is about Donald Trump versus anything else that they may want to be talking about. I think Nikki Haley is making a poor decision here, too, by staying quiet. I don't really understand that calculation because probably, even though neither move is a good move, the best thing you can do is at least say something tepidly, like critical of it, and try to move forward with your campaign. But yeah, it only helps Trump. Especially this particular prosecution, the January 6th stuff would be harder for Mike Pence to navigate.
Much harder, I agree.
And I think some of the other candidates, too, would have a harder time navigating that one. This one, from their perspective, when you have even voices like David French saying, there's some problems with this prosecution, this one is kind of a slam dunk in terms of how the base is going to perceive it.
That's really well said. And already that's how beginning to happen. Let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen. So there have been multitude signs of which we have already showed you, where DeSantis is showing signs of slipping in the polls. So you can see here in a graphic compiled by Nate Cohn, there is a big widening gap between Ron DeSantis and between Trump. Before January 15th, they were roughly head-to-head at an average of the polling averages. Trump is now pulled ahead by more than 10 points. At the same time, if you look at the multi-candidate polling averages, where you include others, DeSantis was roughly 10 points behind Trump, but now the gap between them has widened significantly. And again, this is why, and we can accept that polling is off, that, in many cases, but the tracking in the average within them is still useful to look at. So if it is wrong, at the very least, then it's wrong consistently.
Right.
And in that consistent wrongness, DeSantis is dropping. So you can presume that that is going to have some effect that we can see in some of these polls. And then by and large, too, with Republican primary polls, they weren't perfect throughout 2016, but they weren't even close to as wrong as the general election. The pollsters actually seem to be better off than normal, and they never underestimated any of Trump's strength in any of those primaries. If we'll remember, they had him way ahead in New Hampshire. He won New Hampshire, had him way ahead in Nevada and South Carolina, ended up winning both of those races. Super Tuesday as well. They always did have John Kasich in very much striking distance of Trump in Ohio. Same thing for Ted Cruz in Texas. So they were pretty much correct throughout 2016, the last time we had a multi-candidate field. going to generally presume that if you were right last time, that you could use the relatively same methodology around.
I mean, the thing with these polls is in the Republican primary, they have been wildly divergent. Some of them have showed DeSantis a little up or at close. Some of them have shown like a total Trump blowout. The state polls have looked different than the national polls. So there has been a lot of variability between them. What Nate looks at here is he said, okay, of all the pollsters who had previously polled in this race, how have their numbers shifted? And there were about 12 polls that had been done previously where they were doing, you know, a new round, a new updated version of them. And in every single one of those 12 polls, Trump was taking a larger lead. So rather than looking at the absolute number, okay, is he up by 5? Is he up by 10? Is he up by 15? What he looked at is, okay, if you polled previously, we're assuming you're using basically the same methodology. What are you finding in the field? And every single one of them found that Trump was taking a larger lead and that DeSantis had kind of fallen off. And so I think it really demonstrates the perils of the strategy that he's engaged in. You know, for a while, I think it made sense for him to do his thing in Florida and be above the fray and not get into it. But now that Trump has fully joined the fight, and this shows with the indictment situation as well, the more that you're staying quiet reads as weakness. And the more that Trump is able to completely define you, define what you're about, define the narrative of this primary, define the issues that he wants people to focus on and things that he wants people to care about. And so, you know, it's still, I guess, sort of early in the game. But at some point, DeSantis is going to have to truly join this fight. And that is perilous as well. That's a perilous situation as well. Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.